Okay, this week for data in information, I found several articles, most of which I don't think really pertained much technologically to the topic. I mean, they pertain to the topic, but they didn't contain a lot of technical information. But I spent the time reading them, so I kept them. The first one that I went through is a generation of quantum photon information to create narrow optical tweezers for computer network communication. They propose using a microring resonator to generate an extremely narrow optical tweezers that is generated by a dark Gaussian behavior. This dark Gaussian soliton contains a semiconductor with an add-drop multiplexer. They were using all of this for quantum key distribution in the category of quantum cryptography. And basically they were the study was generating the system based on the microring resonators. They went on to discuss how they were using it and how the quantum signal processing unit would be connected to the tweezers, and this would generate qubits, which would provide the secured and high capacity of information there. The secured information could then be easily transmitted over an optical network communication system. This article completely went over my head. I still don't quite understand the concept of quantum cryptography in general, so this in-depth working on it was a bit hard to grasp. But it related to data information because it's a form of encryption for data information to be transmitted. The next article I read was an improved model for web usage mining and web traffic analysis. So this article shared the importance of providing web administrators with access behavior patterns and usage patterns, saying that existing models, they don't often contain enough detail and they don't cover long enough periods of time for them to give a valid feedback. The proposed model in this article makes use of a complete set of web logs for a duration of about a year. The information is pre-processed for anything that could possibly cause an error. It's then transformed to a suitable format, classified into a category, and then the performance is evaluated by way of accuracy, precision, and recall. That's pretty much all the information given. A lot of the stuff in the article was relating to computer outputs and how they inputted the data, and then they the figures in the article were basically screenshots of what they would get on their computer screen. It was hard to follow. I'm still not sure what the overall goal was after reading it. I know they were trying to propose a better way of collecting this data, but I still haven't understood how they were doing it and why it was different than existing models, other than they just had more information. But it's managing and analyzing web traffic patterns, so I thought it related to data and information fairly well. My next article was Big Data Emerging Technology, Insights into Innovative Environment for Online Learning Resources. I like to preface this with I totally read the title wrong when I found it, and saw the big data technology part and skipped over the online learning resources. So it didn't have a ton to do with technology. However, that being said, the goal was to reveal a way of using this big data approach and extracting a value from online networking. To create this social network value. So they were using unstructured sources of data, which would be like pictures and videos, documents, social networks like Facebook, Twitter, whatever else, and then structured sources such as web application use. And they took all this information pretty much using web patterns and usage to create this social network value. And this value they then wanted to apply they wanted to analyze it and apply it to propose a model framework for an environment for online learning. That's basically all it said, other than it's possible, and it did, the information that it collected allowed for some sort of step forward in the right direction in this area, but the article was really roughly written. The contributors to it were all from Indonesia and Malaysia. It was kind of broken English, so I had a hard time making sense of it. However, they seemed really positive in their results, that they would come up with a better environment and more innovative environment for their online learning resources for higher education. My next article is establishing a corporate algorithm to mitigate information privacy breaches. So, the article, for the majority of it, just talked about data breaches in general. So data breaches being linked to weak security procedures and practices, likely to either misconfigure digital systems or just something wrong in that department. And then it went on to discuss how there's this huge secondary market for selling the information from breaches. So not only are breaches huge on their own, a problem-wise, but because the way the world has kind of worked itself out in recent years, that online transactions have become so popular, this market for selling the information from these breaches has just expanded drastically. And it goes into more of a legal stance on this, how there isn't a lot legally put into place right now regarding it. So this study was kind of to bring in some more legal practices to try to help out people who like using online transactions, especially since they don't seem to be going away anytime soon. So this study proposes the Corporate Analysis of Risk Probability, or the CARP score. It quantifies a business's BLI, which is the breach level index, the frequency of data breaches that they would have, the amount of loss because of them, the risk management plan, the length and time of the business, and then the frequency of digital transactions. They use all this information to determine public digital transaction risk for all companies, any company, regardless of whether or not they've experienced a data breach before. This score is comparative to a FICO score, so I can't remember the exact information, but FICO score is broken down into like 5 categories by percentages, weight percentages, and the CARP score is broken down the same way. So there are 5 different categories with the same weight percentages that a FICO score has. And then comparatively, the higher the score, the less risky the company would be to do a transaction with. So they seemed really positive about it. However, there wasn't a lot of technical information. It was mostly an overview of security breaches and then the information surrounding that. There was like half a page information on the actual CARP scoring system, and most of that information was just a setup comparing it to the FICO score. So there was little technical information. However, it did relate to evaluating breaches, which I think is a pretty important thing. So I'm going to call that a win for this week. My last article is an open source data visualization system for wireless sensor network. Excuse me. So this article talks about how wireless sensor networks play an important role in the Internet of Things, especially in regards to smart cities and smart agriculture. So they allow for efficiency and a quality of life adjustment. In smart agriculture, they allow for an adjustment to use less water. So it's an overall good thing to have. However, the data collected by these wireless sensors at end nodes can't always be directly connected to the internet, so it can't always provide web-based service to the users. So this article proposes using a Zigbee wireless sensor as the most efficient and economical way of monitoring or transmitting data to the internet, Internet of Things cloud storage in real time. So they prevent the efficient and low-cost wireless sensor network, which uses open source hardware and software to collect the data at end nodes from the wireless sensor network, and then they further visualize the data without a network gateway or web-based cloud servers. So basically they've proposed this wireless sensor network that can be utilized in remote locations or places with little to no internet. So their examples were like the rainforest, something where you wouldn't have a lot of internet access, you wouldn't just have a wireless hub chilling out. So it's rather important work. I believe they found that it was feasible for efficiency and low cost. They seem pretty positive in the direction that they were headed. Some of this information was over my head. Overall, I found it to be a fascinating read. And transmitting data over a network relates to data and information in some way. For next week, I'm going to try to look into getting more information regarding wireless sensor networks in general. If I can find more articles containing the Zigbee wireless sensor specifically, I will look into that. Otherwise, if I can find information regarding this remote location setup, I would like to do that. However, if I cannot find a lot of information on that, I might look into security breaches a little bit more and just see what information I can find regarding those.